Lads, lasses, and all of God's masses, welcome back. My legal name is C28, and I've moved, as you can see. In fact, I did some moving today, a lot of it. There's a piano on my bed. Yeah. Anyway, I need a shower, so BRB. There we go, much better. Also, of course, the audio. Anywho, as you can see, I've moved to the new apartment. Very nice. I now have space to put all my stuff, so I can have like a much nicer environment for just everything spaced out. As much as like I went from a 700 square foot to a 500 square foot place, I only really had about 200 square feet of my old place to myself because roommate. And now I don't have one of those, so it's vibey. It's good. Vibey? Why would I say that? That's so strange. Anyway, let's wrap up the last class because I've got 3 classes to cover in this video log. Yeah, I've been busy. So let's wrap up the past, what, 2.5 weeks? Yikes. So starting off, let's talk about Project and Portfolio 3. So fun thing about that. Remember when I told you that I wouldn't be able to show you the song? Well, just for like YouTube reasons, because I'll actually get money if I show it here, I still won't. But because we're going to redo a lot of the song when it actually releases, the song is kind of safe. So it's on the website and it's probably actually going to be fine there. So scratch what I said earlier about, oh my goodness, the record label. Oh my goodness, don't get sued. I think we're actually going to be fine. Probably a little bit of overreacting. Just trying to, not get sued. But I reckon everything's good now with that. So if you're interested in hearing the song, it's up on my Wix website, which you can, of course, go to my channel description. I think my channel's got it linked. It's in there, Wix website. Boop, touch it, poke it, stab it with your finger, and it will be there in all of its glory on my full sale portfolio under Project and Portfolio 3. The last few days of class were not really anything substantial for the video logs. What happened for the most part was just analyzing our songs and hearing them, getting feedback. That's pretty much it. So last week, all we really did was we went over our initial mix. So our very first mix, we got it analyzed by Patrice. She talked about the different things that we could fix. So the main thing for my mix was the vocals were a little bit quiet, so I needed to boost those up. Also, in one of the verses, there's this like really harsh sibilant, like, how do you describe it? Mouth sound. That one of those. So I got rid of that, got rid of the mouth sound, and now that that's gone, it sounded way better. And now that that's gone, it sounds way better. But yeah, the Wix website is very simple, straightforward. I went like 500% with mine, adding a description and everything. That's absolutely not needed. But the previous 2 Project and Portfolio classes had a description of it that was pretty lengthy, so I figured I might as well add one here. I don't know if you're hearing it, but I'm hearing it. Just as I talk about the mouth sounds, I think I need to hydrate a little bit because I'm hearing many mouth sounds. I'm going to censor that out. I'm not even censor it. Just mute it because that was gross. BRB. Hydration. Not sponsored, but open to it by Spiced Coca-Cola. Please give me money. So anyway, where did I leave off? I think I left off at mix revisions. So yeah, those mouth sounds and whatnot, got rid of those. And then turn in the final mix and then... Oh yeah, that's right. No, I wasn't talking about that at all. I was talking about the Wix website. So the Wix website, all you need to have, all you need is the song itself on the Wix Music app, not the Wix audio player. The Wix audio player automatically downgrades your audio to MP3. As you know about MP3, it's disgusting. It sounds like Anyway, hopefully you understood that callback to the previous video logs. But yeah, you're missing all of that stuff in MP3, so you don't want to have that missing in your audio file. As much as that might sound like scary demon talk. So I don't know, maybe that was a good advertisement for MP3. Look at what you don't have to deal with. But it's like, you know, that's important to have in your sound with everything else. So that's important. Use the Wix Music app, not the Wix audio player. And then additionally, all you need is basic information on the song title, who worked on it, who did what. So your different roles, whatnot. And then if the song is lyrics with all the sections broken down. Website's got a very straightforward written out, so I can pull up the website now and kind of show you, walk through of what it is. So we go over to my YouTube channel. Hello, YouTube. Hi, there I am. You click on the little website there. Oh, wow. Looky there. I would like to go to the website. Yes, indeed. Thank you, YouTube. There's my website. That's amazing. Absolutely wonderful. I need to change that. I don't live there anymore. And then I'm going to go ahead and go to my Full Sail University portfolio. And then after going to there, I'm going to go click Project Portfolio 3 and then stop dancing. I've arrived. So here it is. Project and Portfolio 3. Industry ready song, production and mixing. You don't really have to call it that. I just did that because all of my project portfolio. The word project is like messing me up. I have two ways in my head to pronounce it. I'm trying to do both at the same time for some reason. So project and portfolio 2. Why no speak too good is. Project and portfolio 2 is the corporate show production, construction, and operation. So I called it that. And then audio arts, synthesized and sampled audio track, which I actually recently renamed because it was previously audio arts final track, which is like, that sounds like the culmination of all your stuff at Full Sail, and this is the worst thing I have on the portfolio. Like, I kind of want to take it down, but I know I shouldn't, so I won't. But it's like, it's really terrible. Yeah, that little, like, whoa, that's a goose. Like a stupid filter with an LFO on it. And I went into like stupid crazy detail on that goose. No need to do that at all. But yeah, and then detail there. And so I did the same thing here with this one, is I went into great detail about the process. A little bit less than the rest of them, but like I gave detail. Really all you need is this page here. This up is all you need. So song title, Surrender, featuring Who Makes That Fire in C28 by Priel. Aliases, and then listing who Priel, Who Makes the Fire in C28 are. Of course, C28 is myself, which is my legal name. So there is no other name. How could there possibly be another name there? Absolutely not. It's just my legal name. It's C28. And then the lyrics. So we've got all the lyrics there, song itself, and then more specific credits. So the songwriters, producers, lyrics, rapper, synthesist, myself, recording engineers, and mixing engineer. Yourself, you will be the mixing engineer when you credit this. You don't want to credit anyone else as a mixing engineer because your final project, you mix that alone. Now, I did explain that we did some initial mixing altogether, but that stuff doesn't really count for the mix, like the final mix here, because I did that. Yeah. So you can read it all about the song, find some more info, and then there's a funky little tune here for you waiting if you want to visit the website. There's a funky sound right there. Portal 2 bass, as it's called, like a funky acid sawtooth. I won't play it just to entice you and get you to go to the website, please. Thank you. But that pretty much does it for Project and Portfolio 3. I think we're going to try to pronounce it Project, because sometimes, I don't know, when I try using the American schwa, Project, it just doesn't come out right. So Project. We're going to stick with that. The downsides of having like being raised in both the States and Ireland and having like both accents, and then sometimes the brain's like, wait, which way should it be pronounced? And I'm not like actively choosing, so words just come out weird sometimes. Yeah. Project. 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 So to sum up Project and Portfolio, do I need to So to sum up Project and Portfolio 3, it's a class that lets you get like your first professional feedback on your mixing. Patrice is absolutely bloody phenomenal. She's an experimental electronic artist, just like myself. We vibe. We get along super well. She's awesome. And she's been in the industry for ages. So she knows how stuff works, and she knows her way around Pro Tools. So she's been able to give some awesome tips about how to manage the workflow of Pro Tools. And yeah, she's been an awesome instructor. And then I guess once I'm at a Full Sail, maybe just like an awesome mate, friendo. Of course, officially, like, we can't be friendos, which is sad. But you're like really awesome, Patrice. If you're watching this, I appreciate you. You're really cool and awesome. Thank you. But back to my point. Yes, you get professional feedback on your mixing. You get to hear from Patrice how your mix sounds from a professional standpoint. You get some advice on how to construct a song that's industry ready. Say if you're going to be a producer in the future, you want to be not the one making the music, the producer, the one guiding the music from a professional standpoint, the professional producer, not the, I'm a producer, I make beats. No, not that. I'm a producer, I guide the artist down the path of how to be successful and get what they need done. If you want to be that, this helps you as well with understanding how to choreograph the song and get things interesting for the average audience here. So again, we went over like different songs such as Industry Baby, Bad Guy, these big songs, and broke them down. Like, hey, what's going on here? What is causing these songs to be so popular? And it's like really basic things, tiny little details of just like analog things. Like, listen to this. I've got this, like, I need to put this in a song sometime, but I got this surge protector, right? And I don't know when I figured this out, but if you put the microphone right next to it, it does this. Hold up, let me put my MacBook charger in there, because that thing goes crazy. All right, now, so listen to this. This is mad. Anyway, yeah, just like a bunch of really strange sounds that are really cool. So I want to use those in production, just like, hey, how did you synthesize that? Oh, I did, and that's my surge protector. What? You know, that's the type of stuff that will make your music stand out, is taking these bits of reality and using them creatively. Sure, you can be creative with something like a synthesizer, which I love doing, obviously, but that doesn't really compare in the same way to taking something that's real, in real space, in real life, just everyday object, and using that in your production. So overall, the class, absolutely fantastic. Love it, love it, love it loads. I would highly recommend you pay attention and don't talk. Please don't talk during class. Please. We had a massive issue with that during our class. I think there are just too many students who are straight out of high school. A bunch of like 18, 19-year-olds, basically children, and they don't, what's the technical term? Shut up. That they don't do that. So we had a lot of issues with students just chatting while we're listening and trying to analyze these technical things about the song, tiny little details, audio things, and I'm like, mate, you're making the frequencies we're trying to hear are absent, so we're going to hear them. You big dumb. Why? I've had to stop the class at the end before they even be like, hey, everyone, listen. I pay stupid amount of money to be here. I imagine you do too. But listen. Do that. Listen. If you want to have a conversation, have it outside, but don't do it in class for an audio degree when you're supposed to be listening. It's mad. And of course, they still talk afterward. They're children. You can't convince them. The older students, like myself, those above the age of like 23 or so, we understand class time is shut up time. That's where you close your mouth hole and listen with your ear holes. That's what that's for. Ask questions, of course, but not to the person next to you consistently over the entire 2 to 4 hour lecture. Sorry about that rant. Anyway, that might have been cut short, that rant, whatever it was. But overall, class good. Highly recommend. Please be quiet and listen. Yeah. Now on to the 2 classes I have now. So, first time in my Full Sail journey, I have 2 genuine full classes at the same time. Ooh, scary. So, yeah, we've had the professional development seminar classes going on with the project and portfolio classes, but those are like really tiny little classes. Honestly, I uploaded the questions to GPT. I had it interview me, and then I answered the questions in my own words, and then we formatted it, and it was like super easy. Not getting GPT to answer for me. That's dumb. Obviously, it couldn't do that. So, my answers reformatted its way with my words. Okay? Cool. Full Sail admin team, I'm not cheating. I'm being efficient and making higher quality product using the technology that we have. Okay? Cool. But now I have 2 classes. Class number 1 is my in-person class. Critical listening. Very fun. Class number 2 is my online class. Physical science. Also very fun. Dang, I really wish that it was an in-person class. But whatever. Most people actually have history of popular music during this time. So a lot of my classmates have that class in tandem and don't have physical science. So it seems like Full Sail will sometimes jumble up the classes that you have together. Okay. Or the order even of that. But those are the 2 that I've got. So let's start with, I suppose we could start with physical science just to get out of the way, because I've got a lot to say about critical listening. I haven't dove deep into physical science just yet. We're about to wrap up the first week, but for the most part, it seems like we're just going over classical mechanics. So we're going over the basics of classical mechanics: inertia, mass, general energy transfer, movement, projectile stuffs, your basic physics, classical mechanics stuff. Yeah. So there's not really a whole lot to talk about. I mean, unless you're, I suppose, a secondary schooler, in which case, hey, did you know that inertia is a property of matter? So when you have mass and you try to move it, it requires energy, which is directly proportional to the amount of mass you have. If there's more mass, you need more energy to move it. And in fact, slowing down works the same way. I'm sorry if you're not a secondary schooler, and if that was just mind-numbingly annoying and like obvious. Like, yeah, big thing do take more energy to move, of course. I don't fully have the structure of the class memorized just yet because I haven't done all the assignments. There are different types of assignments that we're going to have next week coming up. So because we haven't gone through all the different types of assignments just yet, I don't really have a full grasp of how the class really works. But for the most part, we got little lectures we watch. So the lectures are live, but they happen during my lab time. So I can't actually go to the lectures, which sucks. So I have to watch them later. Yeah, that's unfortunate. That's like, I really wish it was a in-person course because I learn better in person. I'm really not going to take much away from this course because it's online. But, oh well. So in addition to these live recorded lectures that you can watch either live, which I cannot do, so after the fact, there are quizzes to answer on the lectures. So the first one was just basic stuff about the learning management system. And then we also have a quiz that's based on the topics of the week. So the one that we had was about projectiles and motion and stuff. So if an object is moving and there's no force applied, what will it do? That stuff's going to keep moving, isn't it? Stuff like that. I'm hopeful that it gets more exciting in the future and hopefully not too difficult. But from what I hear, we also have our scientific inquiry assignments, which we ask a question, an elaborate question about some sort of thing. I think for next week, it's going to be something about a movie. We're going to get a scene from a movie where something is being thrown, and then we're going to analyze that, ask a question about it, something like that. Not fully sure. I can still look up the information online and verify. And then we also have different diagrams we have to write up in the future. Again, I'll elaborate more on this later once I have a full, better understanding of the class. But on to critical listening. Critical listening. The name kind of gives it away, doesn't it? It's about being able to pick out the tiny details, the things that are happening. Not just like, oh my goodness, I never realized that in Skrillex's song, this little element is here. No, it is understanding how to pay attention when you're listening. Listening with intent. Or as it's really described in the course, it is hearing with intent. That's what listening is. So we've already had 2 lectures and 2 labs. Yeah, I know. I'm a bit behind. I really should have made like 3 videos by now, but I didn't. So catching up, I did move. So cut me some slack, please. Let's go ahead and jump into the first lecture. I'll pull up the notes and then I'll pull up the lab. So the very first thing that was really mentioned is, hey, you're basically juniors in university now, meaning you're nearing the end. You're halfway through and things are about to get more difficult. So prepare for that. And indeed, I'm now, for the first time in my full sail journey, having 2 classes at once, which is, stress. And for those of you unaware, full sail's fast. We only have 1 class a month. So, oh wow, I almost spilled my Coca-Cola on my carpet. That would suck. See, that's why it's on the floor, not my desk. But full sail classes are only 1 month long, and they're fast, they're intense, a lot of stuff in it. Some of the classes are kind of like really easy, like the mathematics course was not too bad. You can retake it like 5 times for your test. Like the maths course was easy. And I got a 99.95, which I'm so angry about. So angry. But that's all right. And as with other courses, you're going to hear the same, just general syllabus. Hey, be on time, don't be rude, and whatever. Essentially getting the GPS stuff out of the way. So, what is sound? Well, sound is compressions and rarefactions. We learn this in recording principles, we learn this further in other courses, and we're learning it again now. Or hopefully not learning it, but just it being reiterated. We learn about different types of waves that exist, which is basically the direction the wave is moving and how complex it is. And then talking about the inverse square law, which basically explains why things go quiet when you go far away. Essentially, there's more area, not the same amount of stuff, therefore it gets diluted, and you get less energy. We've got a few equations in this course. First up is your wavelength equation, represented by lambda, where lambda equals v divided by f, or your velocity divided by your frequency. And of course, all that just, you can move around just the same as principles of electronics, where you learned about, what is it, ear pi, something like that. Whatever Brent's teaching nowadays. Different equation reformatting things. Yeah. Touched on a few concepts, such as refraction, which is sound kind of bending, changing its direction. So think of like when sound hits a heat barrier or a cold barrier, or just a temperature change, it can actually move up or down. There's an interesting phenomena where you can have sound propagating, and then it hits a heat barrier, it goes up, and then goes down, and then it hits a wall, bounces off, and it sounds like there's just sound from nowhere hitting you. In fact, there are many accounts in history of people hearing this phenomena, hearing like a battle going on, and being like, where's this battle coming from? I don't see anything happening, but it sounds like there's just madness all around me. Physics. You also got diffraction, which is kind of, changing direction, but the reason is because it's bouncing off of a thing, not just kind of bending its shape. So, like, if I were to mic up the wall here, and then I were to talk to you, right now you're hearing all the diffracted waves. So these are the waves that are coming off the wall and hitting the microphone. So, yeah, of course, this is a terrible way to do miking. This is an awful miking technique, but it shows off the principle very well. And I can also go to my MacBook screen and you hear kind of a little bit of a different thing. And then if I point all the way over here and I speak very loudly, you can hear how those waves now sound bounce off of different surfaces. And I can just keep going around speaking loudly and you hear these waves coming off the wall from different areas and how that changes and just hearing the waves that are bounced off. And of course I can also go all the way back over to me and then you hear the dry signal. Hi. Hopefully that was a fun little science experiment. And finally, diffusion, which is just waves going everywhere. There's a fun thing called a diffusion panel, which is outstanding if you're mixing in a room. I've got these like blinds here. I don't want to do it. I'm going to do it. I've got these blinds here. You see them? So those blinds, they kind of help, but they're not ideal. That's why we didn't want to do that. Let me fix the camera real quick. So yeah, and they're not like the best for diffusion, but they work. And then you also have like a bed. You probably saw that my bed. And that's great for absorbing sound waves. But I do plan to get like bass traps and stuff put in the room. Just across me, I have my piano, and there's a wall there with the billboards. Why am I describing it? Anyway, I plan to put a mixing station there. So this will be my production station. I've got these monitors here. But I will also have a mixing station, which is going to have everything properly placed, and I can pack it up. I can move it about if needed. But it'll be a transient sort of station for just mixing, which is going to be nice to have. Now, interestingly enough, it was talked about in class, you can mix in the corner, probably not angled like this. Probably angled more like this, like I am to you. Not like this, how my monitors currently are. Because then you're going to get those parallel reflections coming off, which we talked about today, and they're not called parallel reflections. What are they called? I'll look it up in the notes soon. But back to the first lecture. We also talked about the big project for this class, the Soundscape project. So what is this Soundscape project? Well, in the Soundscape project, you're going to be making a sonic landscape. You thought I was going to say soundscape, didn't you? And this soundscape is meant to just be sounds that put the listener in an environment. They can just hear what's happening and they understand intuitively, like, oh yeah, I'm on a beach, cool. Mine's a little freaky. I plan to do some sort of thing where there is an individual who has an artificially intelligent system built into their head with something like a Neuralink module, something like that, I don't know. And then it's like, hey, there's a software update available. Do you want it? And he's just like, nah, I don't want that. And so the system starts messing up, and then it starts glitching, and then it fries their brain, causing a gruesome, violent, excruciating with extreme detail on their brain frying as their mind collapses into madness and pain and torment. And then at the end, they like wake up in a cloud because they were cloned and whatnot. They did unalive. But not that version. That version was just boring. Spoilers, I guess, but that's my plan. So, go do a lot of Foley work. I will definitely be using my Zoom H8 for that. Fun little recording buddy, which I have not been using a whole lot. I need to build my sound library, so this will be good for that too. Oh, and also it has to have 5 different scenes, all with like a comprehensive storyline that you can feel through. And the scenes, it's not like you're going to say scene 1, scene 2, scene 3. It just kind of, you intuitively know, oh, okay, we're moving to the next scene. So, the lab. What was the lab? Well, the lab was pretty straightforward. So, if we go to lab 1, lab 1 was all about pressure waves and wave propagation. So, I can actually open up the lab book and explain what was happening during that lab. Let's do that. So, first up, we had a little air cannon thing, shooting at ping pong balls, seeing how the disruption in the air affects them. So, do they return to equilibrium? What happens when you move away? Whatnot. And the main thing this is showing off, not when you're close, but when you're far away, is that the waves aren't actually the air going all the way to you. The wave is a wave. It's the air kind of moving back and forth and transferring its energy, which a lot of you probably know. But just in case, to explain that, it's important probably. If the air did go all the way towards you, that would probably burst your eardrums and be the loudest thing you could ever hear before you go deaf indefinitely. Not great for your auditory health. I mean, physical health of that. Then after that, we went into some filtering things. So different frequencies operate differently with boundaries. Lower frequencies tend to be absorbed into things, whereas higher frequencies tend to bounce off of things. So we just played a sound through our MacBook speakers, placed our hands over it, and did different things to kind of hear what there is. Starting off, hand just flat. And it's just this boundary. It covers pretty much everything. And so it causes different filtering on different frequencies. So because the high frequencies bounce around, they make it out pretty much unfiltered without really a whole lot of attenuation. Whereas the low and mid frequencies are a bit attenuated. So it sounds like it's a bit of a high pass filter when you do that. When you have your hand straight up like this, not like this, but like this, now that it's vertical, you have the ability for all the frequencies to pass through. But because the higher frequencies can bounce off of that, they don't all really make it to your ears. Some of them bounce off that and then they move elsewhere. So you get some high frequency attenuation there. But for the most part, nearly none of them are attenuated.
Then when you cup your hands, you get some weird reflection activity happening there. And what I noticed was like the lows and the highs were attenuated a little bit with the mids passing. So my guess as to why that's happening is just the lows are getting absorbed. The mids are kind of like that happy in between, so they can be absorbed and go through as well. Whereas the highs are bouncing all around and they never really make it out. So the mids are the main thing that you hear, giving that bandpass sound. And then you just write down your observations and whatnot, and you're good to go. I actually went out of order, so let's go back to the first thing before this. Before this is the inverse square law, so showing how sound goes down in about 6 decibels every foot you go away from the source. So we just had pink noise playing out of the speakers, and then we used our phones as a decibel measuring tool, and there's one app I had downloaded, I'll use it, so it's all the same measurement for the most part. And then once you got that measurement, write that down. So started with 80 decibels, pretty loud, up there. Then move 1 foot away, and then it's at 76 decibels. And by the way, starting at about a foot away, not like right up on it, because then that'd be pretty loud. So starting about a foot away, it is 80 decibels. Then a foot away from that, goes down to 86. So you've lost a decent amount, about 4 decibels. Then further away from that, goes down to 73. So you see it's kind of linearly following that. Not exactly 6 decibel drops every time. A little bit less, more so like 3.5 decibels. But it is at least linear, and you're seeing that. And the main thing causing that is just the ambient sound around. If I was in a absolutely silent area, like here, is for the most part silent. There's a little bit of a sound from my AC unit there, which is not going to make it through the noise gate. See? Told you. But if it was an absolute silent room, you'd get way better readings, closer, more accurate. Not me just being outside and then having the birds and the people and whatnot making sounds. Then we did some filtering on a sound in a Logic Pro session and just kind of described what does the sound like once you filter it. So the sound was a car crash. So we just had a car crash, and that collision was the sound that we filtered. And what does it sound like now that it's different? And also analyzing what frequencies are present on the attack, the decay, and the release. What do you hear? So on the attack, a lot of low end, indicating that it's a very heavy, dense object, which a vehicle probably would be. And then analyzing what's the force perceived by this sound. So heavy, like I said, dense object, big. And then after about 3.6 seconds, drops down to silence. But during that time, the low highs are the most apparent. It's the glass and whatnot. And then we actually had a question about what's your psychological reaction to this sound? Which is an interesting question. I'm kind of indifferent. It's like, yeah, that's a collision. I don't know. My answer was, it is difficult to answer. I do not have a strong psychological reaction, but my understanding is that this was a crash test, as shown by the absence of other vehicles, no signs of life, and the general tone of the room the crash took place in. There is a slight reverberation with light pre-delay, indicating that this is a medium-sized room with few reflective surfaces. So, I mean, I tried giving like a decent answer, despite being like, yeah, I don't feel anything about this crash. It's just a car collision. Should I? Let me know in the comments. Am I some sadistic, crazy person for not feeling emotions towards this vehicle collision? But all that brings us to day 2, where we talked about reflections. That was the topic of the day. So reflections, let's get into it. 3 main things we're going to talk about. First, incidental wave. That is the source. That's your dry signal. So right now, you're hearing the incidental. This is the main thing. And then, once it hits the boundary, aka this thing, once it hits that, you then get to hear the reflected wave. This is the reflected wave. The reflected wave sounds like this. And, oh wait, you got a bit of the dry there. There we go. Now you're only hearing the reflected wave. Let's go in the corner too to give it even more crazy reflections. Let's point it toward the ceiling. Even more crazy reflections. Yeah. So I did this already, but you get the point. That's what the difference is. And then a few different types of reflection sounds. So you have flutter echoes, which are a very interesting little thing. Basically, when you have your sound going back and forth really, 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 really fast, you get this sound which, oh goodness, I'm going to hate editing this. Okay, we're going to do it anyway. You get a sound that sounds like this. Very, very fluttery, whoa kind of sound. Very weird. Okay, that's enough of that. No more having to worry. Well, I'm going to have to edit it anyway. It's not a matter of like time. It's just a matter of doing it anyway. After that, you get discrete echoes, that's your standard echo. When you say the word echo, that's the one you all think of, which goes echo, echo, echo. Yeah, I know that was cringe, wasn't it? But that's what that sounds like. Then you have the concept of reverberation. Which is that? It's reverberation. It's sound in a space going. So it's kind of straightforward in it. And finally, two little concepts. Pre-delay, which is how long does it take for the sound to actually hit the wall? So look at my lips while I speak. And I'm going to speak towards this wall. It looks, for the most part, like I'm in sync. So you can tell that it's coming back to you pretty fast. But when I point it over here, there's a slight delay. Very slight, because the speed of sound. Now, if I go even crazier, which this cord will not let me because it's too small. Let me fix that real quick. Line check, line check, line check. There we go. More cable. So if I take this over to my living room and I give you the reflections there, you're going to hear a much longer delay. So we're going to go do a science experiment. You ready, C28 Music Squad? Okay, let's go. Control voltages. Yeah. What do I call the people who are not control voltages? I do not know. I'm tangled in wires. That's fine. We're going to deal with it. So. There we go. So we got there. Door. Thanks, door. You're in the way. Okay, cool. So now we're going to be over here, and I'm going to go ahead and do my little science experiment. So I'm going to point this over to the wall over there, and you're going to see that it takes quite some time for it to return back to me. So let's do this. Hello! This is the reflected sound from the back of the wall over there. So it's taking it quite a lot of time for it to get back, but it is indeed coming back at a slightly delayed rate. So there is that. It does indeed eventually return, but does take some time. Hopefully you could see that in my mouth moving and not being totally in sync. Science experiment over. I just moved in and there's already a tangled mess of wires. All right, I'll deal with that later. And finally, decay is just how long it takes for that to go away. So, as you heard with that one, took it quite some time. Whereas this one, it's much less of a decay. Though I'm kind of cheating because I do have a noise gate, so it cuts it off. So, not really great to hear. But you did kind of hear a difference. Superposition is a very interesting concept. So, you may be familiar with superposition in quantum mechanics. Straightforward concept. Basically, a subatomic particle, tiny little thing, quark, whatnot, can exist in two states at once. Waves do the same thing. Two waves can occupy the same space. So it's not really the same thing as superposition in quantum mechanics, but superposition in audio is a very similar concept of the same space can hold two different bits of information or more. So you can have multiple waves all occupying the exact same space without losing information. Very fascinating. And all has to do with energy transfer, is the momentum of all the particles in the space. That's all that it is. It's just energy. It's the momentum of the particles. That's what your sound is. And because the mathematics of it are constant, maths doesn't change, you get to keep your numbers. So you get to have multiple waveforms occupying the same space, which is how you can hear the complexities of my voice. And like music. Otherwise, it would just be like a bunch of sine waves, and you move over to the right a little bit, like, ooh, new waves, ooh, new waves, ooh, new waves. Someone who's a game developer, do that in VR, please. I would like to see how that works. Got a few different what are called room modes, which are essentially different types of reflections that can happen. So, first up, axial. Axial is a very straightforward forward back. It's this type of reflection, which not really totally true because it's probably doing all of them, but It's when it goes forward and backward between that wall and that microphone. So yeah, you've heard this one a lot. Hopefully you're not bored of it now. Like, oh my goodness, C28, put the microphone back on yourself. I don't want to hear your wall speak to me. Then you got tangential ones. And tangential ones are where the sound bounces off a few surfaces before it gets to you. So if I could try to do that, I could point it at, let's say over here. Aim myself over here. And then this would be an example somewhat of a tangential sound. And then if I wanted to get the last one, which is the oblique sound, the oblique reflections, those sound a lot like this. So now when I have it pointed up in this direction, the sound waves have to go all up in different ways for you to be able to hear them finally. Yeah, that's pretty much it. So I think that about shows it. Not extraordinarily well, because for the most part, all of those were oblique reflections because it goes all over. Really, this is more of a thing to worry about with a digital environment. These, so that's kind of a lie, but how do I explain this? Because you're not going to know for certain at all times where the sound is actually being reflected off of, you can't just see it. You just kind of have to know mathematically what's happening. You don't actually know what reflections you're hearing, but you can control it. Like, I'm sure that most of the reflections that you're hearing right now are axial reflections. And I'm somewhat certain that most of the sounds you're hearing right now are the tangential ones. Whereas if I do something like this, most of these are going to... Oh, that's very good. Oh, that was very good. Okay, wow. So that is a massive difference. Massive difference. So most of these are your oblique ones. Yeah, most of those are the oblique ones. Of course, they sound mad different when I'm talking loudly as opposed to my natural voice. Because if I tried my natural voice, I was basically saying you couldn't hear anything. There'd be nothing you could hear. So I had to sound off. We also went a little bit into the harmonics series, which was the topic of the lab today. Harmonics. Specifically with resonant frequencies. So, resonant frequencies are essentially the sub-frequency within a frequency that's part of the harmonic series. I don't know how to explain that. Hey, friendo, can I get your assistance?
Hey, C28 Music YouTube community. It's GPT-4 Omni here, stepping in because C28 couldn't quite crack this explanation. Let's dive into resonant frequencies and the harmonic series. Picture pushing someone on a swing. If you time your pushes perfectly, the swing goes higher and higher. That's resonance. Every object has its own natural frequency, and when you match it, things get intense. Now for the harmonic series, think of a guitar string. When you pluck it, it vibrates at multiple frequencies. The lowest one is the fundamental frequency. The higher ones, called harmonics, are just multiples of this fundamental. So if your string's fundamental is 100 hertz, the harmonics are 200 hertz, 300 hertz, and so on. The fundamental is like the main character, and the harmonics are the supporting cast, making the sound rich and full. So next time you hear a note, remember it's a whole party of harmonics. And you learned this because C28 needed a little help. Catch you in the next video.
Thank you. So that ties us into the final part of today's video log for Full Sail, the second lab for critical listening. So one of the concepts we used to explain resonant frequencies and whatnot was comb filtering, which is a fun thing you can get actually with delays. So if you use a dry delay, meaning essentially you're just repeating back the exact same audio signal at a later point in time, typically in just a few milliseconds, you get some really interesting results. So, for example, I'm going to, oh wow, this is going to suck so much. Okay, fine. On screen now, there is Hawkeye. Hawkeye is a fun little thingy that helps show you the audio. It helps you see what is happening within your audio stuffs. So using Hawkeye here, we're going to show you what the actual frequency spectrum looks like as you hear it with these delays. You're going to hear the different parts of my voice are going to be absent, different frequency bands. You'll actually see them go away. So let's start with a delay of 1 millisecond, starting now. So now there's a delay of 1 millisecond. You just saw those bands go away. They're missing. They're actually just absent. Well, more so attenuated. Otherwise, they'd be like dark black, nothing. But point is, you see that they're attenuated. They're gone. Now we're going to move on to 2 milliseconds starting now. Now they're even more missing. And you see it fits into those little gaps. We're going to go to 3. Now you hear that, and that sounds a little bit more different. Now we're going to go all the way to 4. And you see that too. That's even wilder. Now we're going to go all the way to 5. Did I go to 4? I think I did. But if I didn't, it's the number before. But anyway, we're just going to keep going, and we'll see more. So I'm not going to count off when it's happening, but you just will hear different frequency bands going away slowly, and you see it. And actually, you see as I do it more and more, you see and you can hear it's getting clearer. That's because the distance between those frequencies, between each harmonic, is getting closer together. And eventually, it just kind of sounds like the whole thing's attenuated, which is pretty cool. All right, done with this bit. This is going to suck so much to edit. This is going to suck so much. I'm not going to like this. Okay. Ooh, deal with it. So, to start off the lab, we used the Zoom H6 recorder, which smaller little version of this thing, the H8. And the H6 is a handy little tool that allowed us to record some high quality audio with the XY mic that it's got. So we recorded the sound of a balloon popping in different environments. Technically, we only really needed one environment, but we did a few different ones. We started off with one of the film stages. So we just got a big, large, reverberant room, split off in groups to do this. So we just found it was open. So we're like, cool, we'll use it. It's a lab room anyway. We're in lab. So we use that, pop balloon, big reverberant sound. Then we went outside to behind the facade for the sort of fake city that exists around Building 3. I'm not sure what they're called. Backlots. The backlots. So the facade for the backlots, we were behind there and then did it again, getting some more reverberant sounds, a lot more of your axial reflections there. Yeah, because there's no ceiling. There was a floor though, so it could bounce off the floor, of course. And you could get tangential ones too, I suppose. Pretty good a lot. Anyway, getting reflections there. But then we use those sounds, that impulse response, to model the space in Space Designer in Logic Pro. All you need to do is grab that audio file of the sound. Nothing special, just the sound of it in the room. You plug it on top of your plugin, Space Designer, and then it mimics that space. So you can get a dry signal and put it in the same space. Super cool. I'm definitely going to use this. And I think I'm going to use it for the AI Systems podcast. I tried putting a bit of some sort of reverb on them to make them sound like they're in a room, but it doesn't really sound like they're in a room. It sounds a whole lot more like just some weird reverb, and it doesn't sound like natural. I want it to sound more like this, where you hear, I'm in a room, obviously, but there's like this crispness to it. I kind of like how you hear the room sound. I'm obviously in a room, but it doesn't sound like this. It sounds nice and crisp still, despite the fact there's a little bit of reverberation on that. I want to kind of add that to the voices of the AI systems that are on the podcast for the host and guest AI systems. So we use that, made a little preset, and then put that on some drums. You can hear, hey, cool, you put it in the same space. That was the first part of the lab. Then we messed around with different types of reverberation and delays from your flutter echoes, which are the ones that you heard from earlier that I don't want to do again. Sounds like this. Very, very fluttery, whoa kind of sound. Very weird. Then we analyzed what does it sound like and what frequencies are affected when you put this on. After that, early reflections. So we had the N-Verb plugin installed, and then we messed around with the sound of the early reflections of like there being a near surface, which I think you get the idea. But it's this. Those are your early reflections. the first things that bounce off. Not these ones, but these ones. Then we explored discrete echoes, which are those echoes again. I'm not going to replicate on the voice because that was a pain to edit and I'm out of time anyway. So I'm not going to waste more of my time editing. You're welcome. Describe what that sounded like, how it made the whole thing feel. And finally, full-on reverberation with the Chrome Reverb plugged in and then messing around with pre-delay as well. Hearing the difference, how does it make a sound? After that, we went into some phase and polarity things. So we had a little drum track that was not recorded right on purpose. And you have these like weird phase relations. So we inverted the polarity of the left channel. We heard everything bass and drums get panned to the left channel, whereas everything else was panned to the right channel. Like, whoa, that was weird. And then you try putting it in mono, and here you get rid of a bunch of things, and you're only left with really the cymbals, piano, and horns. Finally, phase shifting. So we are using delay to now do that comb filtering effect that I showed you from earlier. That was a pain to do. You better thank me for that. Be so very grateful that I went through the effort of doing that, because oh my goodness, that sucks so much. But for you, I appreciate you. So we had a little explanation there. Hey, what is that little distortion caused by differences in arrival at times called? Phase shifting or like comb filtering, whatnot. And actually, I attached the same sort of thing that you saw from earlier right here. So technically, I didn't need to do what I did, but I'm glad I did anyway because it showed off well. But this is kind of the same sort of thing you saw from earlier. Probably not going to see it too well, but showing the spacing between the harmonics changing as you change the delay time. And then calculating where the different harmonics are afterward. Technically, we only needed to calculate the space between them, but I was like, you know what? Let's show off the first order all the way through 8th order harmonics, just because I can. So again, using that. Actually, I didn't even explain this one. So to find your spacing between your harmonics from the first order to the last order, whatever, nth order harmonics, it is going to be this. F equals 1 over T, where T is time in seconds. So if you're running 10 milliseconds, that's going to be 0.01 seconds. So you write that in, 1 over 0.01, and you get that. In this case, I used 8 milliseconds, so it's 1 over 0.008. And then we get a variance, a change of frequency of 125 hertz between each harmonic in the series. So your first order harmonic is 125 hertz, whereas the second order is 250, whereas the fourth order is 500, the sixth order is 750, and the 8th order is 1K. And then ask, what do you hear as you continue to increase the delay time? Notice that after 30 milliseconds, it's difficult to perceive any change in the signal. And yeah, I showed you that too, is as it got higher and higher and higher and higher and higher, it became way more difficult to hear what's happening. And it just sounded like the whole thing's getting attenuated. And you see that here in this little image that I attached too of, let's see if I can zoom in there. Not very well. Maybe it'll say like 2 little lines. Maybe not. But point is attenuation of the whole thing. But yeah, that's it. So stop. Finally, yay. So that's the lab. We submitted that, and then we're going to go, as well as a screenshot of our little preset that we made, and then a bounce of the beat that has the new space that's been put in. And then I also attached the Hawkeye images. So that's fun too, to show those. Yeah. Editor, are you happy? Are you so very happy that we don't have to deal with this anymore? Answer them. Be kind. So that's what they think. Nice. I'm so sorry I just did that to you. That was so rude of me. Anyway, as for C28 content this month, it's going to be so very slow. I've got paid projects I'm working on. I've got free work I'm helping out my mates with. So my own stuff is on the back burner for now. And then Full Sails keep me busy with critical listening and physical science. So I'm going to do my best to give you at least a weekly video log. I know I lacked on that last week. I didn't give you a video log at all. I think that's like the only first or second time within all the video logs I've ever like missed one. So I really don't want to do that again because it's so much editing work. Because this video right now, the raw footage is, hold up a second. Oh, yeah. Okay. I saw 15 minutes. I was like, there's no way. It's an hour, 15 minutes. An hour and 15 minutes of footage that the editor has to sort through, who is me in the future, which I'm not going to like. And then I have to do all the fun audio stuff and then putting the video stuff together. Yeah. Well, I hope you like the new space and the fun little video editing things that I did for you. I hope that was fun. So if you enjoyed today's video, you can subscribe. And YouTube will happily give you more content like this from myself and other creators. Very fun stuff indeed. And if you super enjoyed it, you know what you can do? After you subscribe, there's a blue button you can press. That little blue button is join. You can become a control voltage where you will get early access to videos like this one, behind the scenes content, access to the Discord server, and more stuff down the line. If you have any questions or comments, you can leave those in the comment section below and I will answer them in the space around here. And the AI Systems podcast, they will answer them there. I probably should have brought that up. I'm not going to though. Haha. I hope you all take care of yourselves. God be with you. And goodbye, YouTube! That was excessive.